It's time for Life in Moscow FAQs Part 2. Okay, so before I get into this one of the questions that I get asked a lot is why I don't do more vlogs or more walk-in talks around the city of Moscow. Now, first and foremost, it is winter. The weather here has been rough. In fact, right now it is cold, rainy, and gray outside. So doesn't exactly make the best atmosphere to go out and do a video showing you around the city. However, the second part of that is that a lot of times when I start to do a vlog, or when I have started in the past, I find that I don't always finish it. And this week was the perfect example because I decided that I was going to make a vlog showing you my workday. And well, here's how far I actually got on that. And that's something everyone should be talking about. Oh, hey there. I thought I would do something a little bit different today and film a vlog showing you what things look like behind the scenes. So this is my setup. I'm here in my living room in my apartment in Moscow, just finished up filming a new video, and now it's time to get ready for work. All right, it's time to go to work, and I am the most excited because the temperature outside is 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. So it's basically summer. Hair and makeup done, and now it's time to head to the newsroom. And that's it. That's all that there is to that vlog. Clearly it was never finished, and in the 3 following days when I could have finished it in a way of at least filming from work, I did not. Now the biggest reason for that is that work is busy, and so a lot of times when I get in, you know, the first hour of the day is like hair, makeup, get ready. The second hour is going into the newsroom, checking all of the scripts, making sure that I basically know the stories we're covering, the interviews we're doing. And then the next 6 hours, I have 6 newscasts at the top of every hour. Typically, those are only 30 minutes each, but if there's breaking news, then sometimes we go into full hours. So the longest that I have been live consecutively is 2.5 hours. Now, granted, that is just for breaking news typically, so we don't always run into those situations, but needless to say, it is a very, very busy work day. And when you do get those 30-minute breaks in between shows, you're usually running around trying to make sure that you're preparing for the next show. And there's really not a lot of downtime. And call me crazy, but I actually kind of prefer it that way for my work day to be busy and for me to feel like I'm staying productive as I go throughout the day because it makes the workday go by a lot faster. Now, of course, the flip side of that is that once I get to the end of a 5-day shift, I am usually completely exhausted. And so a lot of my days off here are spent recovering from the days that I spent working. But anyways, one of the reasons that I wanted to do a part 2 to follow up on the FAQ video that I did a few weeks ago was because I got a lot of comments from people saying things like, oh, you moved to Russia, now I want to move to Russia too, or something along the lines of that. And first and foremost, I just want to say, if you are considering making a big life change, such as moving to a foreign country, always, always do a lot of research yourself and do not take the words of someone that you are watching on YouTube. I also wanted to go a little bit more into what my journey has been like over the last year, because at the end of the day, social media is a highlight reel. And a lot of the hard days and the bad days that I have here, I'm not getting on social media and sharing every moment and every complaint that I have, because that's not the kind of platform that I want to have. But also because I know that I will get a lot of comments from people saying things like, oh, did you think that this would be easy? Did you think that it wouldn't be challenging? And I'm like, no, I knew that a move like this was going to be one of the most challenging things I had ever done, and that has proven to be true. But I also want to be balanced in what I share and to be able to give an honest outlook about how my experience has been here. And I think when it comes to that approach, I've almost been torn in some ways, because I look at it and I try to figure out, okay, when it comes to the challenges that I've had here, how much of that is being an expat living in Moscow, especially right now with all of the sanctions and the travel restrictions, and how much of that is just being an American living abroad. Because so many of the expats that I talk to here who are from other countries in Europe, I mean, this is normal for them. It's completely normal to go to a different country to go to school or to work, because of course they're all on the same continent. And so although there are differences between Russia and say the UK, the distance between the two and the differences between the two aren't nearly as great as between Russia and the United States, especially right now when traveling home takes at least 20 hours of travel, if not more. And traveling back here takes even longer than that. Plus you're adding on an 8-hour time difference. And as I have seen, the jet lag is no joke. I wanted to start out by going through the timeline of how this last year has gone. So I've mentioned that I moved here in June. At the time, things just kind of fell together for this move. I mean, my lease on my apartment in Washington, D.C. was up June 1st. And so it made the perfect situation for me to be able to move all of my stuff into a storage unit, go to Texas for a few weeks, spend some time with my family. And then on June 19th, I said goodbye, hopped on a plane, flew to Istanbul, and then flew here to Moscow. Now, my employer was in charge of arranging a hotel to go to, as well as transportation to that hotel, which I was very grateful for. And when I tell you that my first 10 days in the city were the ultimate culture shock, that is not an understatement. Because as I said in my last video, there's plenty of people in the center of the city who understand and even speak English. But when I first got here, I went to a hotel that was near where work was, which made sense, right? It's a short commute to work. But it's also in a much more industrial part of the city over in the Izmailo district. I guess if you know, you know on that one. And so the people that I was around did not speak English, and they typically looked at me like I was an alien with two heads when I said anything, because they were probably wondering what this American girl was doing, not only in this country, but also in their part of the city. And I came in with 3 large suitcases that I checked, and then 1 carry-on suitcase. So I came with a lot of luggage, and the majority of that was clothes, makeup, skincare, bedding, towels. I was trying to think of all of the things, which obviously I knew that I could get the majority of it here, but I wasn't sure how different it would be or what the prices would be like with sanctions coming into play. And so I just decided I was going to stock up on as much as I possibly could in order to take care. Especially working in TV, you've got to have your makeup, you have to have your hair supplies, all of that. So that was a really big factor in how I packed in order to move here. So I show up to this hotel with all of this luggage, and if you've spent time in Moscow, you know that in the summer, it is the surface of the sun starting at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that sunrise is no joke whatsoever. Of course, the hotel claimed that they had blackout curtains. They absolutely did not. They also did not have a working air conditioning unit in the room that I stayed in. So I get there, and every single morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, my hotel room becomes the surface of the sun. It is so hot in there, and there's no airflow whatsoever. Opening the window almost seemed to make it worse in some cases. So I would go down to the lobby where it was air conditioned and just chill there with all of these other random people I didn't know. And it was that way for the first 10 days until I was able to get moved into an apartment. Now, I've mentioned that obviously Visa and MasterCard had cut off their services in Russia by the time that I got here, so my credit cards didn't work. So I came with about $2,000 in cash and transferred that over into rubles. But the process of me getting bank accounts here was a little more tricky than it should have been, because I updated my passport right before I came here. And the new passport number that they gave me included a letter in the passport number. And banks here, I guess, have never seen that before or haven't seen a lot of cases of that. And so I had to like go there in person and go through that whole process of proving that I was a person and that my passport was legit in order for them to get my bank account set up. So the first 10 days, I am just trying to get day through day while going to work, and the food situation was not great, not at all. And granted, I am a very picky eater, so I will put that out there and make that clear first and foremost that a large part of the problem is me. And also, I mentioned in my last video that I have celiac disease, and I think a couple days in, I finally found a local grocery store that was like a 10-minute walk from the hotel and was able to go there. And I got like drinkable yogurt, fresh fruit, not a lot. I was maybe eating like one meal a day then for those first 10 days. I also wasn't sleeping because the jet lag was so bad. And again, the sun was rising at 4 o'clock in the morning. So those days were not fun, not at all. I think I was kind of in that place of going, what in the world did I agree to? How did I get myself into this? And a big saving grace there was being able to go and to look at apartments and try to kind of further that journey. And my employer had a real estate agent who they recommended. So I worked with her and we went through and toured a few different apartments. She was, of course, recommending that I live close to work. And I said, no. I've spent enough time in this area close to work. I am looking for an apartment in the center of the city. I was very big about that. I'd made that clear. And she kind of was like, okay, if you're sure. And I said, no, I'm sure. And so we toured a few places. The place that I ended up in, that I'm in now, the owners here have been awesome. They're this really sweet family that has lived in the area for decades. And they were super helpful. They even, on the day that I moved in, they brought like their whole family there to help me carry all of my luggage up to my apartment. And they've just been really nice and really easy to work with. So I was so grateful for that, especially after all of the challenges that I went through to just get moved in to an apartment. I was very grateful that it was a good one. And I feel like things evened out a little bit after that. I mean, the month of July and then most of the month of August were really just me trying to get things figured out. I mean, I was trying to figure out food, groceries, all of the household items that you need, all of the different delivery services around here, how they work, and the local grocery stores. And it was just such a process. And so much of it, because I hadn't been gone from home for that long, it kind of felt like I was traveling. Like nothing felt permanent. It felt like I'd gone on this 2-month trip away from home and was just staying so busy with work and so busy with trying to navigate everything. And then towards the end of August, I just hit a wall. And I think part of that was realizing that, I've signed up for this for a while now. This is not just a quick trip that ends and I just go back home. And one of the hardest parts about it was just not feeling like anything around me was familiar. Like all of the things in my life that brought comfort, whether it's family, friends, food, even a quick trip to Target or something as little and as simple as that, or a drive down a road that I knew, that was all gone. And I was in this new world where very few people were speaking English around me. And I was struggling to try to learn the few Russian phrases that I know now. And I just got to this point where I was just so miserable. And that really was a lot of the month of September. I was working a lot. I then got sick for over a week. And I'm talking about a week of laying in bed every single day, dealing with a fever, body aches, chills, just terrible fatigue, being in a foreign country. And I did not want to go to a doctor, quite honestly, because I didn't want to have to deal with the language barrier and I didn't have any familiarity with what the healthcare system looks like here. And I didn't have the energy to go and research it and learn, something I probably should have done before I got to that point. But I mean, I was healthy up until then, so I really didn't think anything of it. And one of my coworkers recommended that I go to a place here called the European Medical Center. And she said, yeah, people there speak English, you'll be fine. Like, go check it out. It was luckily within walking distance from my apartment. And so I went there. And I mean, it took all of the energy that I had left in me to get from my apartment door to the door of that building, right? So I get there and I'm about ready to pass out. And they put me in a room with this doctor. And of course, I'm like, I don't know, do I have COVID? Do I have the flu? What is wrong with me? Here are all of my symptoms. Here's why I feel like I am, knocking on death's door over here and completely miserable. And the doctor just looks at me and he's like, okay. Oh, so you're new to the city. How's Moscow treating you so far? And I just remember being like, no, you don't understand. I am sick. I do not feel good. That was such a wild experience. And luckily, I think he prescribed me like vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. And I took a bunch of that and then in a few days was feeling progressively better and got out of that. But the month of September was rough. And my birthday is that month. I turned 28 last year. And I don't know why, but 28 has always been one of my favorite numbers since I was a little kid. And so I've always looked forward to turning 28 as if that was going to be some life milestone. And on my 28th birthday, I was completely miserable. I did not want to get out of bed. In the weeks that surrounded it, I was struggling to just get up and go to work every day. And I certainly did not want to try to act like I was happy and I didn't want to celebrate. I didn't want to do anything. So I didn't tell anyone at work or around here that it was my birthday. I just kept my mouth shut and went through it. And it was rough. I think looking back at it, I wish I had maybe planned a quick trip to St. Petersburg or tried to do something. But I just remember being in that place where it was I was so overwhelmed by everything here that I just could not handle anything else. I was barely handling the day-to-day of going through life here and feeling just so incredibly homesick that I did not feel like I could have added anything to it or added anything new there. I think that I did learn some lessons through that, but if anything, I just kept going. I kept putting one foot in front of the other. I kept taking it day by day. And eventually October came, September came to an end. And I will say that the months of October and November were good months. Those were months where my work schedule kind of evened out. It felt more stable on my end. It was a little bit more structured. And I felt like I was kind of finally getting the hang of things here. I felt like I was able to live life here and have some sort of normalcy. I was creating that normalcy for myself in a way. And of course, I should also note that pretty much from the time that I started in the summer, I requested time off for Christmas and for New Year's to go home. So I did have that countdown that I was constantly looking towards and being able to say okay, 2 months until I go home for Christmas, 1 month until I go home for Christmas. So the closer I got to that, the more tangible being home again felt, the easier it made everything here. And then when I finally got to that point and I was able to leave to go back home for the holidays, I was in such a good spot here. I felt like I had everything under control. I felt like I was figuring things out. I was actually living in a foreign country and doing a decent job of it. And getting to go home was the greatest gift. Truly getting to spend a month with my family and getting to see everyone at home and just being at home. Being in a place where I didn't have to think about a language barrier. I knew where everything was. I had my favorite food, all of my favorite people around me. It really was just the greatest blessing. And I think it also made me remember how insanely easy life is in your home country, because that's where you were born and raised. You know how everything goes there. And when it got to the point of coming back to Russia, I still felt like I was in a good spot. I was looking back at how things ended before I left, and I was thinking okay, I got this. I was in that good spot when I left. I could be right there when I get back. And then reality hit pretty soon after I landed. And part of that was just the jet lag. Going through that again was I had to go through all of those original withdrawals, whether it was jet lag, dealing with the change in food, dealing with the change in weather. All of that just hit me so hard. And the month of January truly felt like it was years long. And I think one of the biggest struggles was being back in that low place again and looking around and saying okay, I got through this before. I got through this when I was really struggling in September. why am I not getting through this right now? Like, I was frustrated with myself that I was back to that place of being so incredibly miserable and feeling like there was nothing I could do about it. Like, feeling like I didn't have the energy to push through, or that, you know, because when it gets to that point, it's like I will try to schedule things to do or find creative projects to work on, or really try to emphasize, okay, if I feel like I have a day where I am just not looking forward to it, what is something that I can look forward to? What is something that is going to bring me joy or help me get through this day? And even on the days when I would do that, I would still be struggling. And man, January was not fun, but I got to February, things started feeling a little bit more manageable. I also started working on more YouTube videos, like really pouring my time that I had off from work into more creative projects. And that helped a lot, just being able to not only do that and to see the fulfillment of that, but also to kind of get that feedback from y'all. Because up until that point, I really had kind of backed off from putting effort, like a lot of effort, into the editing of my videos. I mean, I was still doing the writing and the research and everything, but because their performance on YouTube and across social media hadn't been that great, I was almost in this place of discounting my work before I'd even published it. Like, I would work on a video beforehand in the fall and think, oh, well, this isn't going to get, you know, any views, so why would I spend all of this time editing it? And I think when I was in this place earlier in January and February, I kind of just came to this place where I was like, look, I have all this time and I don't feel like it is being filled. So I'm going to fill it. I'm going to put an effort into the videos that I'm making, into the editing, into every piece of them. And I'm going to do that knowing that maybe 100 people watch them. You know, maybe I put it out there and people don't care and they pass right by it and, you know, censored by all of the platforms that I put it on or whatever. But I made the conscious decision to say, I am going to put in that effort because that's what I want to do, because I want the work that I put out there to be quality work. And within that week, when I like made that decision, decided that I was going to take that shift, I created the video that I put online that now has almost 100,000 views on YouTube, which is crazy to say. If you would have told me that at the beginning of this year, I would have said that you were insane given the views of all of my other videos. And then I went on to create another video that has gotten over 150,000 views. So I think finally being able to see a version of the hard work that I was putting in, and putting in even more hard work and effort, to see that paying off was such a big thing that really helped me through that point and really helped me get through those weeks where I felt like I had this endless time and nothing to fill it. Because again, when it is the middle of dead winter here, I mean, it's not like you're getting up and going out on a nice stroll around the city during the day. That's what I used to do, you know, in the summer and even in the fall. The days where I felt stuck, I would say, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to get a good cup of coffee and actually get outside and move and enjoy this weather. And suddenly that was not an outlet that I really had access to anymore. Although I have gone on a few walks just insanely bundled up. But you know that when you're in that climate, especially days like today where it is raining and cold outside, it doesn't exactly make for the most inviting walk that you could possibly take. So really leaning into those creative outlets and putting in that time and effort on my end and doing more live streams and trying to be more regular about that and really putting in the time and effort like I knew that it needed to be put in was what helped me to get through the second half of January and most of February. And then that brings us to March. And you know, I think there's some places where I have let myself get frustrated over the last few months that I haven't been able to get back to that really good and stable place that I felt like I was in before I left in the fall, you know, in October and November, and that has wished that things were different now. But at the same time, I also have to acknowledge where I'm at and acknowledge the places where I'm stressed out or I'm feeling anxiety, and to like acknowledge the fact that that is my body telling me something and sending me signals that I need to pay attention to. And in the past, when I was living in the US, I may have seen things like that and just kind of ignored it or tried to push through it without really taking the time to sit down and to say, okay, where am I at mentally? How am I feeling? What do I need to address? What are the underlying reasons for, these feelings of frustration or feeling just completely miserable? What's behind that? And so in a way, I'm grateful for this journey that the last year has taken me on. I mean, it has not been easy. It has been one of the most challenging years I've ever been through, for sure, in a lot of ways. But I feel like I've grown from it, and I feel like I've learned a lot about myself as a person and about what I can handle, what I'm capable of doing. I've literally pushed myself outside of my comfort zone in just about every way possible. But I'm grateful for the growth that comes with that. I'm grateful for this experience because I know that the last year of my life has been so unique, and it has been an experience that I probably will never have again in my life. And whether that's just because after living abroad, it may make me, love it and adore Texas more than I ever have before, that may be a part of it. But that's not to say that I won't embark on an adventure like this one again. I think it just is to say that I have learned a lot, and that I'm glad that I was able to do something like this at this stage in my life. And I've met a lot of people here who they just love Moscow, they love Russia, and also at the same time they hate their own home countries. And so being able to move here is just perfect for them. The challenges that they go through are very different than the challenges that I have gone through living here. And that's okay. I own the fact that I am the individual that I am. I am very reserved. I'm very much an introvert. Some people would move here and they would be going out to bars or going to clubs and meeting new people, and that's just not my thing. That never has been my thing. And so, yeah, looking back, it's like there were a lot of things that I could have done different, but I also know that I have to kind of own the journey that I've been through and to acknowledge the places where, if in that moment I didn't feel like I had the energy to barely get through the workday, let alone go out and meet a bunch of new people, then that's just where I was at, and I can't change it at this point. But at the same time, I don't know how much of it I would change either. I mean, I know that a lot of my videos, probably 99% of my videos, are being critical of the US government in some way, and I stand by that. But at the same time, I also still have a lot of love for my home country. I mean, that is where my family is. That is where my home is. That's where I was raised. So I don't know that I will ever be the person who just says, I hate America and I'm never going back there, and is able to just move to a different country and not still have a lot of love for where I'm from, and not still want to go back there often to see my family and friends and to be in my home. But at the same time, I mean, I also think that Moscow is a really incredible city, and I'm grateful that, if I was able to take a year to move to a foreign country, that this was the country that I moved to, because the amount of perspective that it's given me and the amount of ways in which it has really opened up my worldview and taught me so much is an experience that I truly would not have gotten anywhere else. And yes, that also comes at a time when it is the most sanctioned country in the world, and it is truly a unique time to be a journalist and to be here and to get to see this side of things. And the truth is that I don't know exactly how the future is going to look. I don't know how everything is going to line up. And the last few years have been filled with so many changes and so many big life moves and life decisions that I am certainly not predicting the future at this point in any way. But I do think that it's important to have videos like this where I sit down and I talk about the challenges that I've faced along the way, because that's part of the journey. I mean, it wouldn't be the journey without all of the hard days, without the times when I was questioning, okay, how long am I going to make it here? And the days where I really just wanted to buy a one-way ticket home and just be done with it and go back to where things were easy. And you know what? I'm proud of myself that I have made it this far. I'm proud of the fact that in all of the times where I felt like giving up that I didn't, and that I pushed forward on staying true to the year that I committed to here, and to trying to make sure that I got to that end point as far as I could get, and that the decisions that I made beyond this year weren't just made suddenly or weren't made because I was struggling one day, that they really were decisions that received a lot of thought, and that it wasn't just based on my emotions one day. And I'm also grateful for all of you that watch this, whether you are seriously considering moving to a foreign country, or whether you've had an experience similar to mine or even completely different from mine, that you take the time to listen to my story and to take that into consideration. And also to know that when it comes to things like this, when it comes to opportunities where you have the chance to really grow and to go completely out of your comfort zone, it's gonna be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's not guaranteed to be easy or fun, but it does have the chance to be an experience that you will truly never forget. And with that said, I know that I didn't structure this video the way that I structured the last one, where I kind of went through question by question. It was much more of a me sharing what's on my heart and going through the last year. So if y'all like that format, let me know. And if you have any other questions that you would like me to get to in a possible part 3 of this series, we'll see, then also let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. I'm so grateful for how this community has grown over the last few months. Thank you for sticking around and for watching my videos and giving them a like, and for all of your kind comments. They truly mean so much to me. I hope y'all have a good week, and I'll catch you next time.